This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East L.A. Music Stories. My guest today is Mr. Jerry Salas, longtime lead singer of El Chicano. They had a big hit with Viva Tirado around 1970, and around 72, they had a hit with the Brown Eyed Girl, their version of Brown Eyed Girl. And right after that is when Jerry joined the group. Let's just start there. How you doing, Jerry? Welcome to this show.
Doing good, Mark. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. I've known each other a while now,
Yeah, absolutely.
huh?
So you just played at SoFi. That must have been a thrill. I heard there were tons of people there.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because our time slot was rather early, like around 2 in the afternoon, which I was really glad after the fact because I had no idea that many people were going to be there. I mean, I figured there'd be a few thousand people by then because I guess the gates opened at 11, or the first band started at 11. So I'm not sure when the gates opened, but we were backstage and one of the groups was playing, and all I could hear was the. And I'm like, wait a minute, how many people are out there? Scoogied over to the side of the stage and looked over the canvas thing they had there, and there was already 40,000 people in front of the stage.
Now, was it a one-day festival or did it go over a few days?
One day,
One day.
all those acts,
Uh,
four massive stages.
Did each stage have its own audience or how did it work?
Yeah, exactly. So I heard the one in front of Lionel Richie's stage, I guess, was like over 60,000 people or something crazy. And so you figure four of those stages with that many people in front of it give you an idea of how many people were there, I guess.
So people on the ground level and then people on the stadium seats.
Well, everything was done outside in the parking lot around
Oh,
SoFi.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, nobody was, as far as I know, I don't, know for sure if anything was happening inside. I was told they were all outside in the parking lot. They were, because they have massive parking lot there. So I'm just kind of wondering, where do the people park, also,
Yeah.
because we were utilizing the whole park, I thought, it looked like anyway. I mean, the artist parking lot was huge. They had to ferry us from the parking lot to the artist's village, where all our dressing rooms were, rows and rows of dressing rooms that they had out there, along with the food trucks and stuff like that. And I thought it was really, really run amazing. The stage crew, man, they were fast. Well, then we had the revolving stage. So there was a partition in the middle, and while one band's playing, the other one was setting up behind them. So when that band was done, the stage just turned, and we started playing as soon as we were turning around and facing the audience. And then vice versa. Then they started, breaking down the one behind us and putting the new band up. So that was a smart way to do it. That's the only way they could have done that many acts in one day.
And there were acts of like all genres that you had black acts, you had R&B, you had Chicano acts, Los Lobos were there. Uh,
Right.
and then you were there some obviously some white acts too, right?
Oh yeah, there was a
A little
bunch
bit
of,
of everything.
yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I didn't see too many rock acts though. They were mostly R&B or Chicano acts or whatever. So
Still drew all those people. Pretty cool. Cool and the gang were there, right? The various people.
yeah, see, I was bummed because I did want to see Cool and the Gang, more Stay in the Time.
Right.
They always put on a great show. I'd love to have seen Lionel Richie again. I've seen him live before. Puts on an amazing show. And of course, they had Diana Ross, Santana, um, a bunch of Evelyn Champagne King, I think, also. All the way back to Mary Wells, I think, was there too.
Wow.
So it's like amazing that they pulled from the 60s all the way up to now, of different acts. Made it great.
How long did you play? How long was your set?
Well, everybody was very short on the set, so we only played like 25 minutes, I think, something like that. And so I heard Santana only played a half hour. I guess Lionel Richie, who went on like I think around 11 at night, probably played an hour at least, I would think, you know. So I wanted to see Chic because I love Nile Rodgers.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
such a great producer, you
Yeah.
know. I would have loved to see that. And they had Shalimar there, and Roland Bautista used to play guitar for Howard Hewitt in Shalimar back in the day. I remember, but I had never seen him live, so I thought that would have been nice to see. Also, what was that other act that I was thinking about? I can't remember. There were just so many acts last night in the Pips. He goes on and on, you know. So, but four major stages. That's the only way they were able to do it.
So were you guys in El Chicano the only sort of Chicano bands or Latino bands?
No, no. Mahler was there. Tierra was there.
Wow.
Los Lobos was there. Then Santana, of course. You know, he played later on. He didn't look too good. He looked kind of feeble. You know.
Yeah, I see he's been sitting a lot when he's performing.
Yeah, yeah. I heard he canceled some shows, so I don't know what's going on. But you know, God bless him. He's been
Mhm.
there for a long time, just like all of us. You know.
Absolutely. So that must have been a great experience. But now let's turn the clock all the way back to how you got into music and was there music in your family tree? What happened?
Yeah, my dad was a professional guitar player, singer, and my brother was also a great guitar player. He was 12 years older than me. And they both taught me when you know I'd go to the shows that they were doing. My dad, especially, of course, and loved it. You know, he was in different kinds of genres of music. Wasn't just he was in a mariachi group, he was in a Hawaiian troupe, and he was in a Western troupe.
Wow.
And so he was doing like Sons of the Pioneer type stuff with the Western and total Hawaiian with a pedal steel and the girl singer and everything with upright bass.
Wow.
And then he was in a full-on mariachi group too, with you know the whole thing and his big voice, man, when he would sing. I got that from him, you know, watching him perform. I thought everybody sang big like that, you know.
So I didn't know your dad was a musician, even we never talked about it. But so did he sing in English and Spanish?
Yes, yes, he did. He sang both, and it was like when I was growing up in the '60s, early '60s, and such. It was like some of the Hispanic families weren't really teaching their kids to speak Spanish because they didn't want them to stick out in school or whatever. And you know what I'm talking about. So I
Yeah.
never really got to speak Spanish as well as they did. And then they kind of used it later on, you know, like whenever they didn't want me to know something, they'd go into Spanish, right?
Right.
Which I really wish they hadn't because I would have loved to have been able to thoroughly speak Spanish, you know.
Well, the same thing happened to me. My parents didn't really teach me and my brother Spanish for the same reason, especially for them in Tucson when they grew up, they were punished for speaking Spanish.
Right.
And they wanted to make sure that we could succeed in the United States.
And
And
assimilate, and which we
yeah,
should, and we all
yeah,
people that come to in whatever country, you should assimilate to whatever it is, you know. But it doesn't mean you have to leave your own heritage behind in that regard. So
and as we've seen with a lot of our friends that were brought up bilingual, if you're brought up bilingual, you speak both languages without an accent and very well.
very well, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so okay, so that explains that. So at what age did you start like playing and thinking like you're going to be in a band and all that?
It was about 12.
Me too.
Yeah, it was about 12, and you know, I had been seeing my dad and my brother play, and I was tinkering around, but I wasn't really taking it too serious. Then the Beatles came out. Look out. Big inspiration to all us guys that were around 12 years old when that happened, and got the fire in me to want to, you know, want to do it, right? So one instance that really, I was younger at the time. My mom dressed me up, took me to this dance. There was my dad playing on stage, and everybody was partying, having a good time, and he's singing away. And I thought, wow, this is awesome, right? So the next morning we're having breakfast, and he's got all this money on the table, and he's making little piles. And I'm eating my breakfast, watching that. And so I asked him, I say, hey, Dad, I said, what's with all the money? You know, he looked at me and he says, "Well, you saw me last night singing and playing, right, son?" And I went, "Yeah." Well, that I was working, and now we get to pay. We're going to pay the guys. This is their money. Blah blah blah. And I remember sitting there eating my breakfast, thinking. He, I looked at him and I said, "You got paid to have that much fun?" He said, "Well, yeah, I worked and we get paid." Man, I went, "Man, I know what I'm going to be doing when I get it. I'm eating my breakfast."
Ding, bell went off.
Bell went off, man. And
Yeah,
then
man.
I just loved it.
So you started with guitar as far as instrument?
Well, actually, I started with the trumpet
Oh, in
in
school?
grammar school. Yeah, my brother had played trumpet, and he moved out, got married when I was 10, I think, and he left his trumpet. So I asked my parents, I said, "Well, if he's not going to play it, can I play it?" And they said, "Yeah," because they offered it in school. And they were band, So I did that. And I was really fortunate because that was a grammar school, and they were teaching instruments at that time too, which is awesome. So I joined, I was pretty good. I remember I got picked. They had this thing they would do once a year, and they would go around all the grammar schools and pick certain students from each type genre of instrument, rather, and put one big orchestra together. And I got picked for that, which was kind of cool. So we got together with a bunch of other kids from other schools, had one big rehearsal, and then we went downtown and played for the Chamber of Commerce, I think it was, or something like that. So I thought, wow, I'm going to keep doing this, right? And then the trumpet broke. Something happened to the trumpet. I remember that. And my parents never fixed it. They didn't, whatever. Maybe we didn't have enough dough. I don't know. And so I'm sitting there going, well, there's that guitar over there. So my dad started showing me, and
How many years did you play the trumpet?
oh, probably two,
Yeah.
maybe.
I started with clarinet in school. I played clarinet for 6 years from the third grade to the ninth grade.
Oh, see, there you
Yeah.
go.
And then I went to guitar also. You can't get girls with a clarinet, at least not in our generation.
Yep, it's a little hard, man.
Tough, man.
So
But
you
Benny
play that
Goodman,
one song that was a hit. Da 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 da. Remember that?
you're right. In the 40s, Benny Goodman probably got some chicks,
Oh,
but
I'm sure.
it was cool then. It was cool then.
It was cool.
So you started on acoustic guitar?
Yes, oh yeah. My dad had this old Martin, and I think it was a D28. And I love that guitar, man. I was just like, oh, this is gonna be mine when, my pop doesn't want to play it anymore or whatever. And then he loaned it to my brother who had children at that time, and they stepped on it and broke it to shreds. And my dad was so upset, and I was too. My brother felt really bad because I mean that was like there's no way you could have fixed it. It was just like pieces of wood, by the time they got done stomping on it.
Yeah, I wound up with my dad's D28. I still have it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, but I inherited it before he died. In fact, I relieved him of it like in
You
1968.
borrowed it?
Yeah, 1968, because he wasn't playing it.
Mm.
At that time, he was only playing with his band and he was playing acoustic, nylon string. He was laying around in bad shape. And I just said, hey, I'll take this. And I had it refurbished and I still have it.
Man, that's probably worth some dough right now.
It is. So what was your first band?
Ah, boy. Okay, this was the 60s.
Yes.
And I had this one band. We had so many different guys coming and going. First, it was called the Brotherhood. I think then it was called the East India Autumn. And then it was
Pretty cool, pretty psychedelic.
I know it was psychedelic time, man. What was it? The Robinson Bound Train.
Cool names.
Yeah, pretty much. And then when I started a band with my brother, we were called the Sticks. And remember how everybody had a band card back in the day?
Yes.
And your name was on each corner of the
Yes.
card. So mine was Rhythm Stick. My brother was Lead Stick. Kenny Forsey was Bass Stick, and Snoopy Alvin Pfister was our drummer. He was Drumstick.
Kind of cool. Kind of cool.
That's how we put it on the cards. I always remember that.
And where were you living at the time?
On Seneca Street in Atwater.
Okay.
Now it's Atwater Village.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, yeah, for whatever reason. And it's basically a great location because it's between Glendale and Hollywood and downtown and the valley, right in the middle, you know. If you know where the opening of Griffith Park is on Los Feliz,
Right.
that's the area I basically, I live probably a half mile from that corner somewhere,
Nice.
8 mile at the most. So,
Did any of your bands at that time make any recordings, records?
yeah, as a matter of fact, we initially in this band was it all what was crazy is we were doing all our songs. We weren't even doing covers in this
Wow.
band.
Yeah.
We wrote everything that we did at that time, which was really interesting for being so young, I guess. And it was really a good band. We had like 3-part harmonies, sometimes 4-part harmonies and stuff. And that was like when I was playing with contemporary guys my age in school. And then I had a band with my brother, like I said earlier, also kind of right crossing over. I was playing both bands. And I think my brother's band was more like 67, 66, 67, I guess, something like that. Because Snoopy and Kenny left our band. Um, it was a crazy story. I was playing with my brother in his house in another area of it wasn't Atwater. They used to call it Tunerville, which was like kind of a little bit of a gang area. When he had a big house with a big living room, and we used to play in his living room. And these guys knocked on our door. And we opened the door, and it was these two guys, these two white guys, right? And they said, "Hey, we've been hearing you guys play. You're pretty good. He's a drummer, and I'm a bass player. You want to jam?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah. Go get your stuff." They pulled their stuff in, and we jammed all afternoon. It was sound really cool. And then they said, "Hey, this is really good. You guys sing your butt off, blah blah blah. Let's they want to play some gigs." And we go, "Sure." And Kenny was a little hesitant because he asked my brother, he goes, "How old is he?" you know? And I was like, at that point, I was 15, I think, at that point. And he said, "Well, I don't know. Some of these clubs he's not going to be able to get into." So it just so happened that my brother's sister, little sister, had a boyfriend that gave me an ID that said I was 18. And I used to carry that with me at the clubs whenever I'd play. So as long as I was 18, I was okay.
Really? I thought it would be 21. They let
Well,
18ers?
it was weird because I don't know if it was because my brother was older. He was 27, I think, at the time or something
Mhm.
like that. And my parents allowed me to go because of him. And
Did you look old enough to possibly pass for 21?
well, I don't think I could have passed for 21, but they said if as long as I was 18 for whatever reason. I mean, I couldn't drink, they wouldn't let me drink or anything, of course, but I was still able to play, and real quickly we were playing in this gay bar on Hollywood Boulevard for 9 months every Saturday, and they were really cool. Man, we had the best. I mean, I was making $50 a night. I was in junior high, you know, every week I'd make, so I was doing all right back in, 66, 60, whatever. And uh, what was it? Oh yeah. Um, with the Vice Squad. Remember the Vice Squad? They used to call them the Vice Squad. They used to patrol the nightclubs, right? So obviously you knew who they were. So we're playing, and the Vice Squad walks in, and I'm standing there going, "This is like one of my first nights I'm playing there." And they look at the bandstand, and they look right at me, man. And I'm thinking to myself, "I'm going to jail." I didn't know what to do, right? And they come walking straight up to the band, right up to me, and what stepped on this, we broke for the song. He stepped on the stage and he walked right past me to the drummer who got us the gig. He was 18 at the time. He goes, "Let me see your ID."
Wow.
And I'm sitting there going, and the Snoopy gets up, gives him his ID, and he goes, "Okay, you're good." He goes, looks at the band, he goes, "Man, you guys are good." And they walked out.
Wow.
Saved by the, I don't know,
Must have looked a little older to him.
I guess, I don't
Uh,
know.
so how did you hook up with El Chicano?
When I got out of Vietnam,
Oh, well, that's a big subject right there.
oh yeah,
Let's not skip over that. Let's talk about that. You got drafted?
I got drafted, right? Yeah.
What year?
72, end of 71, beginning of 72, right in that area there. And I was 19 at the time. So just out of high school, really, as they graduated when I was 18. So I was working around town doing stuff. Oh, you know where I was working? I always loved this story. There was a Capitol Records building on San Fernando Road in Fletcher Drive where
Mhm.
they actually made the records with the presses and everything, right?
Mhm.
My sister-in-law was working there and she got me a job there out of high school. So I was actually pressing records,
Wow.
literally getting the vinyl, putting it in there in the press and putting it up there, and they cut the edges off and everything. And it was all these like Glenn Campbell and all these albums and records that, Beatles, of course, at that time. And everybody knew I sang in there, and they'd always mess with me about it. Like, hey, so when I quit, I told them, I said, one day you're going to be pressing my records.
All
And
right.
they did. Well, that's before I went to Nam, though.
Right. Before we get to Nam, let's as far as Beatles, like you said, you saw them when they came out. Were you into them?
Oh man, love the Beatles. Love the Beatles. They changed the music. They changed everything, and for the better, for melody, the melodicness of them, the
Songwriting.
songwriting, everything. It was just like this phenomenon. Who all of us who went through that. And I just thought they were amazing. I got to see them at Dodger Stadium.
I did too.
Were you there?
Yeah,
Oh man, remember that?
absolutely.
That was great. That was so great. So yeah, I was a huge influence, and I hear a lot of guitar players, singers, obviously that sucked up all that energy that they came out with and took and made it our own, of course. But hell yeah, man, they were amazing.
There'll never be another band like that.
That the way they changed music was it was crazy.
And culture, so many things have
Culture,
changed.
music, clothing. I mean, all of it.
Yeah. So you wound up in Vietnam. Were you obviously you were in the army. Did you wind up in the jungle?
Yeah, I actually got trained in Fort Ord up Northern California, how to drive tanks, APCs, armored personnel carriers, and Sheridan tanks. So once I got there, that's what they put me on. So I drove a tank for the first couple of months till I got graduated to sit up on top of the tank and be a machine gunner because the driver is the first one to go when you're driving a tank. You hit a mine, you're down below. And the machine gunners, we used to sit on top of the tanks with our M60s, and the tank commander had a 50 cal in the top. So then I graduated up to a machine gunner and did that for uh, 6 months, I'm thinking, something like that, until I got heard singing at a hooch party. And they took me out of the bush, put me in special services,
Wow.
and it was flown all over Vietnam, entertaining the troops for my last 3 months. I guess I was in there.
Were you entertaining solo, or did they put you in some kind of band?
Initially, I was put in a band. It was called Jimmy Hurd and the Westerneers. But I couldn't stand the guy, man. He was just, God, he was such a dick. Anyway, so I decided in my heart I didn't want to play with this guy, but I couldn't figure out how to stay out of the bush, right? So I'm thinking on it, and I got an idea because the major who pulled me out of the bush, put me in music, really loved me. He was just a nice guy, and so I messed up that first gig with Jimmy Hurd so bad he on purpose You're going back to the bush. You can't play guitar. You can't sing. Blah, 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 blah. And you got to remember, I had pulled in a friend of mine, Steve, to play bass. He was just a guitar player, but they needed a bass player. And I said, "Oh, I got a bass player." He always thanked me for that because I pulled him out of the bush and he became a bass player. So it was the two of us with Jimmy Hurd and this drummer. And so the next morning, Steve's freaking out. He goes, "We're going back to the bush. We're going back to the bush." And I said, "No, hold on. I got a plan." So I went real early to the orderly room and I knocked on the door, walked in. The major said, "Come on in." I sat down. I told the major what happened the night before and everything. And I said, "Sir, not everybody over here is going to be into just country music. These guys are all my age. They come from different types of music, different ethnicities, everything. I can play it all because I had been prior to going in the Army, right?" So I said, "All I need is Steve on bass and two microphones, and we have the sound system already. And you can put us in places where you can't take a big band, and I'll entertain the troops that way." And he looked at me and he said, "That's a great idea, Jerry. That is a great idea. We can just chopper you out, do the show, and bring you back." And I go, "Exactly." So we decided that, right? And just when we decided that, the door, boom, 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 boom. "Yeah, come on in." And it was Jimmy Hurd. And he comes in fiery. He doesn't see me sitting there with the major at first. And he walks in, he goes, "Sir, we got a problem. We need to get rid of Jim." And he sees me there. "We need to get rid of him. He can't play, he can't sing, blah, blah. He disrupted our show, blah, 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 whatever." And then the major, this is my favorite part. So the major leans back in his chair and he goes, "Well, Jimmy, we already solved that problem." He goes, "Great. I'll get his stuff and put him in the truck and we'll take him back to his unit, and everything." He just wanted to get me in the bush again, right? And the major looks at him and he says, "No, we're not going to be doing that because Jerry's going to be having his own show now." In his face, man. Am I going to take a Polaroid? What? And he storms out. He was fuming. And Major looks at me and goes, "Yeah, he'll get over it." And so every day after that, I had to be up by noon to find out in the orderly room where I was playing that night and what chopper pad I had to be at what time, type of thing. And that's what I did the last 3 months, I think, that I was in Vietnam.
So you served your 2 years and you came back to LA.
Hey, that's the great part. I was only there like 8 months, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, you can check this out. They were having a mass reduction in Vietnam. And at the same time, they were having a mass reduction in the Army, too. I don't know if it applied to the rest of the services, but so I had been obviously they said anybody who was in country over 6 months can go home with their unit, and I qualified. I was in 8.5 months or whatever it was. So, but what I had to do though is get my butt back to my unit because the unit was going home, not the special services. And this is another story. So I walk into I find this out because my guys would come visit me and they say, "Hey, we're going home, man. We're cleaning the truck." I said, "What?" "Yeah, the whole company's going home. If you're over 6 months, you can go home. And otherwise if you're not, you get transferred to another unit." And I said, "Wait a minute. I'm over here in special services. It didn't apply to me, right?" So my mind starts ticking again and I go, "I got to handle this." So the next morning I go back to the major and I sit down with him. I go, "Sir, I got something I need to ask you." And he goes, "What's that, Jerry?" And I says, "Well, I've been feeling like, I've been missing my buddies and, I feel like I left them and, I'd really like to maybe get back to my unit," trying to weasel my way because I knew they were going home, right? And, "I think it's time and blah, blah, blah." And he's smiling at me. And I'm going, "Why is he smiling?" And then he leans back in his chair and he just looks at me and he goes, found out your unit's going home, did you? He knew. And I went, just like felt stupid, right? But he was such a nice gentleman. He goes, don't worry about it, Jerry. He said, you've been great. I'm thankful you've been here playing for the guys. I'm sending you back to you. You go home, man. And I just went, oh my God, this guy's like an angel. First he takes me out of the bush, then he makes sure I get to go home. Always be thankful to him. And so I got transferred back to my unit, cleaned up the tanks, and I went home and went to San Francisco. This is where we got out, when the plane landed in San Francisco. And the funny story is, we get to San Francisco, having all these meetings with, they wanted anybody who was a draftee, such as myself, to stay in and you get to go home for a month, and then after that you got to go to your next post. Or anybody who's a draftee that has been in over a year and served honorably, you can sign out today, tomorrow, in about 3 days, and go home for good.
Whoa.
And I looked at my paperwork. I looked at my paperwork. At that point, I had been in a year and 10 days. I said, I'm going home. I'm staying home. And with full benefits and everything, I was in a war zone. So I remember trying to convince the guys that I knew to stay. And when they go, they could stay home. But a lot of them were really homesick. They wanted to see their mother, their wives, whatever. And the way he said it too, because the next day was Easter Sunday. And he said, I could have you home tomorrow with your family and da 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 da. And I'm telling these guys, don't do it. Because he's saying if you stay to get out, it's going to take 3 days. And I said, I'll stay 3 days is what it takes to get home. They wouldn't. A bunch of them just said, no, I want to go home. I really miss my wife and my mom and whatever. And I understood. But man, I bet you after those 30 days was over, they kind of were regretting, when I went home, I stayed home. And I was home in a day and a half. They didn't take 3 days.
Wow.
That night I was at the Fillmore watching Mountain play live. From Vietnam one day, the next night I'm in San Francisco watching Mountain.
Your hair's starting to grow slowly.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, I was a happy camper.
So from that time that you got home till you joined El Chicano, how long was that? Would that be?
Yeah, when I got home, I had a friend of mine see me who lived down the street, and he was working for Archie Sullivan, playing in nightclubs.
Their manager.
Yeah, and he saw me and he said, "Hey, are you out?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you ready to gig?" I said, "Yeah." Jump in. We're going to take you to meet my manager. So he takes me over there and I meet Archie. Archie, man, Archie. He was that grumpy old guy, ex-boxer, ex-English professor. So Mike says, hey, we need to have a band. This guy can sing. And he looks at me and he goes, I always remember this. He goes, so you're a singer? And I looked at him like, yeah, I'm a singer. And he leads back and he goes, sing. It just stared at me, and kind of gave me a little, So I tore into A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke, a cappella, blew his mind. He goes, okay, let's get a band. So I started playing in a band called Sawado. And we did nightclubs all over the place forever. We were playing 6 nights a week, 5 sets a night. You remember that, right? So when Fred quit, who was the lead singer in El Chicano, they asked me to replace him. That's how I got in.
Wow. So that was, 72?
Yeah. Yeah, in 72.
And then you recorded, the first album you were on was their 4th album, which was called El Chicano, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I met Jimmy Espinosa. He played bass on most of that album.
Oh, really? Was he in the band, literally?
No. He didn't like Archie. I was begging him to join the band, but he didn't like Archie because Archie was very gruff and very, just loud and well, you knew Archie. So anyway, he wouldn't join. And but Jimmy and I have been friends ever since. And he played on, I would say, three-quarters of that album. Then we finally got another bass player, Dick Henderson, played on Tell Her She's Lovely.
Mhm.
And he did the rest of the album and toured with us behind that.
Well, I'm looking at the album here, and on that album was the big hit "Tell Her She's Lovely." And I know the story, but tell the story about how you find the song and what happened.
Oh yeah, we were in the middle of the album, and but we had other dates that we had to do, live dates, and so we were flying in and flying out, and then recording the album at the same time. So we were up in I think it was Seattle, no, Vancouver, and I happened to hear this song on the radio with acoustics, and I said, "Wow, that's a cool, got a great group. Like I like it, but I can rearrange that and do it maybe Latin rock style." So I went and bought the 45. Back in those days, you could buy a 45. Remember that?
About $1.
Or a buck, I think it was, or something. And so we got back to LA and we were rehearsing with the guys, rehearsing new material for the album. And I said, "Hey, I got this song and I got an arrangement if you want to try it." And I played it for them, and they hated it. They just said that sucks, get it back, Mickey, Mickey, grumpy Mickey. Hell, nah, I'm not doing that shit, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm the new guy in the band, I don't have a whole lot of authority or, whatever. So we start rehearsing whatever, and then all of a sudden Johnny Musso comes in, who was our producer, and he was vice president of MCA Records at the time. And we, "Hey guys, how is it going?" Blah blah blah. We're going on. We're good. We're rehearsing new material. He goes, "I got this song, and I know you guys should do it." And he puts it on, and it's the same song.
Wow.
It's "Tell Her She's Lovely" by David Batteau. They recorded. He was on A&M Records, I believe, at the time. And everybody immediately just turns around and looks at me while the song's playing, right? Like, giving me the evil eye, man, giving me the stinky eye. So the song ends and they all jump on me, man. Like, "What are you doing? Going behind our back, going to the producer now, get your songs in, blah, 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 blah." And I go, "Whoa, Johnny?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Have I ever talked to you about this record?" And he picks up the record. I'll never forget. He picks up, he goes, "No, I found this record. I think it would be a great song for you guys, and I want you to try it out, and everybody just looked at me, like, got quiet, right? And then it was like, remember that saying, "Want to get away?" And I looked at him and I went, "Want to hear my arrangement now?" And they go, "All right, let's hear it." So showed them the arrangement. We went in and cut it. I I knew it back and forth vocally, so I sang it one time. And I was going to walk in, and Lenny Roberts, who was the engineer at the time, said, "Hey, sing it one more time. Just give us one more time." And I'm like, "Well, okay, whatever." So I did. He goes, "Okay, come on in." So I went in the booth, and I said, "Well, I thought I didn't had it the first time." He goes, "Oh, you did. I just wanted to double your vocal. Listen to this." And they put it up, bam, and the whole band just looked at each other. And as soon as the song was over, everybody went, "That's the single." And that's how that song came out.
Do you remember what chart position the song made?
Top 40. I don't think it went top 10. Top 40 though in the nation. And we were surprised because when it was released, it bombed. It went nowhere, And we were kind of bummed. And we went to I think we were doing a Central American tour at that time. Yeah, I think that's what it was. We went down there. And then when we came back, Archie met us at the airport with these limousines and this whole hoopla, and we're going, "Whoa, what's going on?" We all get in the cars, and he goes, "Turn on the radio." And the driver said, "What station?" I always remember this. And Archie goes, "Any station." So we're driving out of LAX before we hit the freeway. Teller comes on the radio. And we look at each other like, "What?" I said, "What's going on?" And he said, I think it was Tom Donahue from San Francisco. K-San radio, I think it was him. He
Mhm.
started playing it, and people started reacting, and it just took off across the country. One station keeps playing it, just everybody, had that domino effect.
It just took like a few months for that to happen.
Yeah, there you go. And just followed the hit basically on the tours we did, which was, a lot of work, but it was fun.
So you noticed that the gigs got a little better, the pay got a little better as a result, right away.
Yeah, everything got a little better. You got a hit record going, right?
And what were some of the gigs you did, and what were some of the highlights in terms of the bills you were on with other artists?
Oh man. We had a lot of interesting gigs with really cool opening acts. Like Rufus was one of our opening acts. Olivia Newton-John was one of our opening acts. Pointer Sisters were one of our opening acts. And some of the shows, like I think at this point, this still the biggest crowd I ever played for was at the L.A. Coliseum. They had a Watts Festival.
Is that Watt Stacks?
Watts Stacks, yeah, and the Watts Festival. We did one in '74, I think it was, at the LA Coliseum with Barry White, the Supremes, Azteca, Bloodstone. Um, Richard Pryor was the MC. It was hilarious. And that was over 100,000 people. So that was fun.
Pretty cool. I'm looking here. You did a cover of What's Going On this album?
Yeah, in fact, funny you should bring that up. We were opening with that song at that time. And we opened with that at the LA Coliseum. And our slot was really good. We were like the second to last to go on. But they had us sequestered in the locker rooms the whole show. So we never even saw the audience. We could hear them and you could hear the music, but we hadn't seen it, right? So when it was our turn to go, we went down the tunnel they pulled the limousine up, and we went down the tunnel and went onto the field to get to the stage, which was right in the middle of the field. I looked up and I just, for the first time, we felt like we were in the bottom of a soup bowl, And I just went, whoa, what the heck? So the whole show, though, they had a gate around the grass because I guess it was football season. I guess they want nobody stomping on the grass, so they built this fence. So we started playing, and you got to remember, we were like second to last. So they've been listening to music all day, and we start with What's Going On, man. And our groove is the groove on that song, man. It's just a solid groove, and I could see the people reacting. And all of a sudden, and right when Mickey or Bobby was soloing, we were like getting really into the meat. About 5,000 people came down from the stands, knocked over the fence, and started dancing in front of us on the grass. I mean, it was bizarre to see, I mean, it was really cool, but the MC comes running out onto the stage, grabs the microphone away from me, starts yelling at the audience, get off the field, get off the field. And Andre, this is hilarious. Andre gets up from his congas, goes over to the guy. Remember how big Andre was?
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes over to the guy, grabs him around the waist, picks him up off the floor, and throws him into the drum cases that were on the side of the stage. And he never came back. And we kept playing, man. It was a cool day.
Andre Baeza.
Yes.
Might as well say the lineup here on the album here. It says the members, Mickey Lisbron, of course, on guitar, Bobby Espinoza, keyboard, Andre Baeza, congas, Danny Lamont, great drummer.
Yeah.
You on vocals and guitar. And then it said Dick Henderson, bass on Enchanted Forest, and Tell Her She's Lovely. And then it had additional musicians, Rudy Regalado, the late good friend of ours.
Yes, Rudy.
Jimmy Espinoza, as you said, Bobby Loya on trumpet, a legendary East L.A. trumpet player.
Yeah.
Sherry Williams, background vocals, Cruz Baca, background vocals. Yeah. So now the next song would be Enchanted Forest. Now you were co-writer on that?
Yeah. hmm That was that band I was telling you about when we wrote all our own stuff. You know, we were probably at that point we were the Robinson Bound Train, I guess, or something like that. Um, there was a area on Las Feliz and Riverside Drive, right before you go into the park. There's a fountain there. And they used to really be beautiful with lights and the whole thing. And behind it is the forest area. And we used to call that Enchanted Forest and the Enchanted Forest. And we were back there one day experimenting with some some herbs, and we wrote that song. You know, and I just said, "Hey, we're in the Enchanted Forest. Let's call it Enchanted Forest." You know, I was probably 15, maybe 16 at the time. I don't remember now.
Now, I just listened to the song today just to refresh my memory on it and was amazed. There's like a 2-minute instrumental intro,
Yeah,
organ, and then eventually harmony guitars before the vocals even come in.
right. Yeah, it was. I wrote it in. When I wrote the song, I didn't have that intro. But at that time, if you remember, bands like Yes, and there was a lot of big keyboard intro stuff, you know, walls of keyboards, and I wanted to make this big thing, you know. And so I came up with that intro. It's very, you know, but I wanted Bobby to do something first. And so he starts it off, and I thought it came out okay. We used to love playing it live. You know, a lot of people still call for that song actually. So
And lyrically, there's a line in there about making love up on the hill or something.
yeah.
I know what it's about, right?
Oh yeah. Making love on a hill. What's the next line though? You find the pain of thrill, I think, or something like
Very strange.
that.
Well, we were young and horny back then, for
There
sure.
you go. Yeah.
Hormones.
Testosterone was happening.
And you've got a cover of Un Mundo by one of our favorite bands, the Buffalo Springfield.
Yeah.
Stephen Stills.
Yeah, man. I've always loved Buffalo Springfield. I grew up listening to Buffalo Springfield. I saw them live when they came out.
Me too.
And they were amazing, man. They're just those vocals, and you know, it's kind of country, little country rock. You know, that was the beginning of country rock.
Right.
Totally, we spoke about that
Especially
before.
Richie Furay with Kind Woman.
Richie Furay, man, what a great writer and vocalist, and
Child's Claim to Fame.
yeah, Neil Young, of course. You know, everybody who was in that band. They just were great players.
No, I didn't find out that we shared a love for the Buffalo Springfield till that one Thanksgiving. Do you remember that time?
Yeah,
It was a Thanksgiving where I had no plans. So I said, I'm just going to go visit a bunch of my friends. And I hit like 5, 6 people. I did this big 200-mile tour visiting all kinds of friends and spending a couple of hours at each place. And one of the stops was in Burbank. You were living in an apartment in Burbank. Went over there, had some turkey, and we talked and picked up the guitars. And you played a Richie Furay song, Sad Memory.
right. Yeah.
Oh, you like the Springfield? Oh, and then we started playing Springfield songs. And
Yeah, remember that? Oh, definitely. Then I kind of followed Richie Furay into Poco.
me too.
I used to go see him at the Troubadour with
Me
Timothy
too.
B.
I was there
Schmidt.
the first week.
Yeah, Jim Messina, Timothy B. Schmidt, Richie Furay. Are you kidding me?
Actually, it started with Randy Meisner on bass.
Oh, that's right. It was Randy Meisner.
Yeah.
Timothy just followed him all over, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Followed him into the Eagles too. So,
Yeah.
but I remember I still say Poco, that first week there with the Troubadour, it's one of the best bands I've ever seen in my life. They were
Killer.
so tight. The vocals were perfect, 3-part harmonies.
Perfect.
Great
Perfect.
songs.
Oh man, I've had some great times at the Troubadour and the Whiskey growing up. You know, seen so many great acts there.
Yeah.
Paul Butterfield Blues Band. Oh man, they were great. Seals and Crofts, Kenny Rankin. Kenny and I became kind of good friends for a while there before he passed, and I loved seeing him there. Pentangle. Well, who else? Yeah, just a bunch of bands, man. And
During that period, I saw Neil Young there a bunch of times, with and without Crazy Horse, John
uh,
Sebastian, Carole King, Neil Diamond, in this small club.
small little club, man. Yeah, you're right there. You know, so same thing with the whiskey. I just go there and I see John Mayall and Procol Harum and what was that other one that did Steppenwolf, Lee Michaels, Love, of course. You know, Love played there a lot. And I used to go see them there as well.
Yeah, at the whiskey, at that time, I saw Beach Boys
Really?
at the time when they had actually good vibrations.
Wow.
And I saw the Kinks.
At the whiskey?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah.
I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl on one of those KRLA summer extravaganzas. I was there, man. Everybody played at that. I mean, I saw Cheese, Love and Spoonful, the Kinks, Sir Douglas Quintet, the Beach Boys, Johnny Winter, Sonny and Cher. Who else? Oh, the Turtles, the Seeds. This is one show at the Hollywood Bowl. It's $4 for the ticket. You know.
I remember seeing Poco at the Japanese Deer Park in Buena Park, $2. And the opening act was Steve Martin, stand-up comedian,
Right.
and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, $2.
Yeah, he was doing it. That's how he got going, really. You know. So Paul Rodriguez started, you know, he used to come to us and, hey man, can I do 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you guys come out? And, you know, he was good friends with Bobby Espinosa. So Bobby would say, what do you guys think? You know, yeah, let him go, man. You know,
I saw a show in the early 70s at the theater in the Round in the Valley. It was Jim Croce, and the opening act was Woody Allen as a stand-up.
no.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Um,
That was where I saw Buffalo Springfield and the Birds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that stage that turned real
Yes.
slow.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Theater in the Round. I remember that place.
So this is a cool album. And did you do a cover of We've Only Just Begun? The same one?
Yeah, Mickey did a good job on that. Mick's great melodic West player. You know,
Was it instrumental or was it vocal too?
yeah, it's instrumental. What is the good thing I like about this band is the fans have come to know that we do both. You know, I mean, the first album was all instrumental.
Right.
You know, and the second album probably a third of it was all instrumental. Um, Something like that. And then, of course, Brown Eyed Girl album, Celebration, there was a lot more vocals on that. So it was like a progressive thing, I think, you know. But we still do instrumentals, you know, in between whatever.
And Mickey was known for that sort of a lot of that Wes Montgomery octave kind of playing too.
Oh yeah,
And
which was just so cool to me because that was shown to me from my brother. My brother was a huge Wes Montgomery fan, and he would do the Wes, and we listened to all those albums, Bumping on Sunset, Tequila, you know, all the Wes Montgomery great songs. So when I joined the band and Mickey was playing Wes, I went, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
yeah. So the second album you sang on was Cinco, right?
Right.
And let's see, the lineup on this one is Bobby Espinoza, keyboards, of course, Mickey Lesbron, guitar, Andrew Baeza still. And I had Brian Magnus on bass and you. Yeah, that was pretty much the lineup, right?
Yeah, Brian was my bass player in high school. And he was part of that band that I was telling you about earlier, Brotherhood.
Oh, yeah.
We might have been East India Autumn by that point. I'm not sure. But Brian was the bass player in that band. He's a great bass player, man. I think he went on to be a professor of music at some college or something. Haven't been in touch with him for years, but he was such a layback, just a pocket bass player. In fact, he's Fred's favorite bass player after he left.
Fred Sanchez. I see also Rita Regalado was a member here,
Right.
percussion, Timales. And you have Eddie Rodriguez, right? What did he play?
Yeah. Eddie Yachty Rodriguez. He was my drummer in the club band that I was in before I joined El Chicano.
So you're starting to bring your friends into the band at this point.
Yeah, yeah. They started, well, they needed a drummer, they needed a bass player, but I knew these guys, and they were really good. Eddie was major killer drummer, man. He was from New York, and he could sing his butt off too. And that was the real strong thing for me, to have another strong singer in the band, you know. So I got him in, and he did that album. But he kind of ticked me off because we finished the album, we did a tour, we're getting ready to go in to do the next album. So I called him up to talk about something, and he's all, I got something I got to tell you. And I go, what's that? He goes, I got to quit the band. I'm like, what? We're still writing Teller, you know, and this Cinco was a great album. I said, what are you talking about? Well, a month before that, we had done a TV show with Rick Springfield, and him and Rick started talking.
Ah,
I'm still ticked at Rick Springfield because he quit us and he joined Rick Springfield's band.
mm. I noticed too that by now you're sporting your afro, baby.
It was layered.
Pretty big.
Yeah, it was pretty big. Yeah.
Was that natural? It was natural, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was getting my haircut even in high school. I was going to Jay Sebring in Hollywood.
Fancy.
And it was, even then it was $20 back in the 60s. That was $20 to get your haircut. Because this guy did everybody, you know, Paul Newman. I mean, you go on and on. Well, he's the one that he got murdered by the Manson family,
Yes.
though. Yeah.
I'm noticing a couple other fros here. You got Eddie Rodriguez has a big afro, and of course Rudy Regalado.
Oh yeah. Well, Eddie had that going. You know, I always remember he'd always be picking at this huge afro he had. He was Puerto Rican, so he had the hair for it. You know, so yeah. But he's a great drummer.
You know, back then in those days, I hadn't met you yet in those days, but I did see you. I was at a club in North Hollywood, and you were there, and you had the big fro going. And so I remember seeing you, but I don't think we met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Would
just
that be where was that club? Was it Filthy McNasty's? Probably.
probably.
Yeah, we did play the Palomino a couple times too, though, back in the day.
Mhm.
That was a cool old country club, but you know,
That's right. Yeah.
they had all kinds of music playing there, though.
Oh, cool place. Cool dive. It was great. Everybody played.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there you go.
So I'm looking at the songs here, and the first one is El Cayuco. And I was playing that song. You got your guys' version in a band I had out here in the desert.
Hmm.
We played that a lot, and I love playing that song. And also Ahora Sí, which is on this album.
Oh man, yeah, that's a great song.
Those are cool, sort of salsa.
Oh man,
Uh, both instrumentals, right? Or were they?
no, they're vocals.
Oh, they're vocals, right?
They're vocals.
It's been a
It's
while.
mostly chant, though. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Not a
yeah, it's like
song per se with lyrics.
chorus. You know, the coro. You know.
All right. And let's see what else you have here. Oh, my favorite, Gringo in Mexico.
Oh yes, I love that song, man.
I think that's definitely my favorite El Chicano recording.
Man, you and a lot of people. In fact, last time we played with Los Lobos, Caesar and Conrad came to our dressing room, and we were just talking about music, business, whatever. And I don't know if it was Caesar or Conrad said, "I got a question for you guys," and we're like, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "How come you don't play Gringo in Mexico?" Because that's our favorite song. And I looked at whoever was in the band at the time. Like, yeah, how come we don't play it? The story behind that. We were playing this club in Denver, Colorado, called Ebbets Field, and it was this one of those little dive places that everybody played at. I mean, Jackson Brown, Dolly Parton, Brian Auger, and Oblivion Express. I can go on and on. Marshall Tucker, everybody played at this club, and it was really teeny. It probably hold maybe 300 people, but they had a great sound system, cool little stage, and we had an opening. We had different opening acts, and this girl, Wendy Waldman, who wrote Gringo in Mexico, was our opening act. and she played acoustic guitar and an auto harp, and it was just her. And she would do that song every night, and I just kept hearing it and hearing it. And I said, man, I talked to Bobby, and I said, Bob, we need to do this song, man. It's like perfect for us, you know. Kidding me? Gringo in Mexico. And he goes, man, yeah. He goes, and I know some mariachis we could pull in to do some, you know, string stuff too. So let's do it. Okay. So we did. He called the mariachis. We did the rhythm set track, did the vocals, and we used Sherry again, and I think Cruz is on that as well. And Eddie, I think it was Eddie, Cruz, Sherry, and me did the vocals on that.
Three-part
Yeah,
harmony,
our harmonies are real
and
strong.
probably doubled.
I think we did double it. And at that time, we had also done a song called What You Don't Know Won't Hurt You. And it was a real rocker, man. I mean, this song was killer. It was so strong. Even the Jackson 5 even covered it after they heard our version of it.
Oh,
But anyway, I wanted that to be the next single. You know, I was pushing for that. But they didn't want it because Eddie Rodriguez was the one singing the lead on it. But I was doing all the background vocals with it as well and everything. And they said, no, we need to have something that you're singing. That's why they wanted to do Enchanted Forest, because I wrote it and sang it, blah, blah, blah. But we couldn't, it was so long, you know, because it was an opus, you know. What is the time on that anyway? It's a long song. But anyway, they said, we got to edit it. And we couldn't edit it down to make sense, you know, for their liking, you know. So they said, no, we're going to go with Gringo in Mexico. And I said, it's a great song. I love it, but we need a rocker, right? You know, we need to hit right after Teller. Let's hit with another, you know. And that song was just so strong. And they said no. And they put out Gringo, and it barely charted, you know, didn't do great, you know. And I was really bummed, man. That could have been, then we could have released it after
yeah.
What You Don't Know. That was my theory. They didn't hear it. So
But the harmonies are so great. The mariachi sounds great.
yeah,
I just love everything about that record, man. So it was a couple of women singing the harmony with you too?
I believe Sherry and Cruz both. It might have been just Sherry and Eddie and I, and I'm not sure if Bob sang on that at all though. I just think it might have been just the three of us. So Sherry was a great singer. We used Sherry on several albums. Cruz also on a couple. Um, Sherry, the same year, she sang on Teller. She also sang the harmonies for Redbone's "Come and Get Your Love."
Ah,
That Sherry on that record as well. And Cruz left, and she married Michael Sembello, who put
oh,
out Maniac.
maniac.
Yeah, so she sang on his albums as well. He was a great guitar player. When he played on all those Stevie Wonder records, you know.
Great singer too.
Yeah, great singer, man.
I remember he wrote a song that Thier recorded called Margarita. Really
Oh,
good song.
really?
Really good song. So the next album is The Best of Everything. And you guys are in front of this mansion. You know, where was that taken? Where's that house?
That's a frontage in the back lot at Universal.
Oh, really?
I have seen that frontage in so many movies, and you can always tell by the chandelier that's hanging down in the middle on the top. It, I said, there it is again. You know, they use it a lot, man, in a lot of movies. So anyway, I got submitted that song. You can have the best of everything. Okay. So we said, yeah, this is cool. Let's cut this. So we did. And then we got finished with the album, and everybody said, well, what do we call this album? And somebody suggested the best of everything. And I said, yeah, I love that song. That's a good title, right? And then I thought, you know what though? We need to make sure that they don't think it's a compilation album,
It
because
sounds
it
like
sounds like it could be a best of album, so to speak. And I was thinking, how do we thwart that? And I said, I know. I go, what if we stand in front of a mansion with a limo and all dressed up like we're richer than you know what, and with maids and the whole thing, the best of everything. And our producer Johnny Musso said, "I love it. In fact, I know what we can do. We're going to send you guys down to Best Western Costuming, and we're going to have you all get fitted, blah blah blah, and we're going to do what you said." And I said, "All right, cool." So that's what we did. Um, One of the girls standing there was a secretary at MCA, and the bald-headed driver guy, he was an employee of MCA. We just saw him and said he'd be perfect as the driver. And of course, they had their pick of limos and cars. So they had that big old limo that's on the cover. And Andre, he had those dogs, the Afghans. And that's the epitome of, so bring your dog too. He loved it. So that Andre brought his dog, and we sat there. And if you notice, you can't see John's left leg because he had a cast on it at the time, and he didn't want anybody to see it. So I think he's sitting down. Is that what he's doing on that picture? I think he's sitting with me at the table.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can't see his cast.
Yeah.
So we had the champagne was real because we were drinking the champagne.
Oh,
And the
cool.
photographers running around doing stuff. And I always remember they used to do the tours, the tour buses would go
Yeah.
by.
Oh yeah.
We were sitting there, and by that time we're all kind of hammered, drinking this champagne in the heat in the sun, right? Taking this picture, and the tour bus is going by, and here's El Chicano photographing their brand new album, Best of Everything, and blah 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 blah. And we're like,
And MCA owned Universal, so it was easy to get the lot, probably.
oh yeah, we used to rehearse there sometimes, Yeah, MCA Universal, which is why we got so many songs in movies. I guess they're all Universal movies.
Hey, little known fact here, my band, my late 60s band was called 1984, named after the George Orwell book.
Yep.
And we were signed to Cap Records before El Chicano.
There you go.
1969, we did 2 singles for Cap Universal, so
Yeah,
I'm familiar with that label.
it was it was Cap and Uni, was it?
Yeah, Uni was a little bit later, yeah.
Yeah, and they were like subsidiaries of
MCA.
MCA. Yeah,
Yeah, and Neil Diamond wound up on Uni. A lot of his big hits were on Uni.
right.
So the lineup on this album was Mickey Les Brown, Bobby Espinoza, you, Andre Baeza still, Rudy Regalado, John DeLuna, the original drummer,
He came back.
and Joe Pereira, bass.
Yeah, Joe was a real tower power bass player type guy.
Another Afro, right?
Yeah, another Afro, and he was a little guy, but man, he was funky. He was so fast, man, on the bass. I used to tell him to slow down sometimes, because he could do all those, bass patterns that TOP does.
Mhm.
Because he was huge a TOP fan, man. So he will do, and I say, hey man, just give me some downbeat, Oh, okay,
Okay, so let's see what songs are on here that I might know. Oh, Love the One You're With, another Stephen Still song.
Yeah, I love that song. Yeah.
And you brought that in?
I brought that in too, yeah, because I was a huge, and we killed it, I thought, man. We had this aggressive intro that the percussion section worked out. I was really proud of him, man. That intro, like do 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 and it was killer, man. I used to love to play that song live.
Chicano's Love Still is because of Uno Mundo and
Yeah,
the Latin rhythms. He had the Latin soul, baby. Well, then remember on Sweet Judy Blue Eyes at the end, he's singing in Spanish.
yes, right.
All that stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah, great. Good old Stephen. And then what about that song Zaire? What's the story about that?
We as a band went to the Hollywood Palladium. I always remember this, and watched the Thriller in Manila.
Oh, Joe Frazier, Ali Frazier.
Was it Thriller in Manila?
Or
No,
was
the
it
one in
Joe?
Zaire
Oh, yeah, that was George Foreman
with George Foreman in Zaire. And we went to see it. And
on closed circuit TV. I did
on
too.
closed circuit at that time, right? We were the whole band. We just went and saw it together. And in the beginning, they showed all the culture of the Africans over there at the time, and the grooves they were playing on congas and everything. And there was this pocket they were playing, 6/8 thing, and I just thought, wow, that's a cool groove, So I was just getting kind of some vibes about it, and so was Rudy. I remember Rudy talking to Rudy, and he goes, "Oh, I look at this, Jerry." Yeah. So we watched the fight, went back to the studio, and wrote Zaire.
And wasn't it thrilling to see Ali, who was a huge, like 10-1 underdog, to see him win? It was so thrilling. I was such an Ali fan.
What a night! It was crazy. And we cut that puppy, and the percussion nailed it, man. They came up with a great 6/8 intro, and we thought when we ended it, I remember the ending of the song. We were going to end it just like that lick, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum, wham. We were going to end it there, right? And when we ended it, I don't know if it was Rudy or Andres. He said we should go back into the 6/8 when we hit that last downbeat and just fade on that. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. So that's what we did. So we ended it the same way we started it, with the 6/8. So it went diddle-da-dum, diddle-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, wham, diddle-da-dum, ba-dum, 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 bum, ticka-ticka-bum, bum, ticka-ticka, and you can hear Rudy in the back going Ali. You can hear it.
Oh, cool.
You listen to it. Ali. Ali.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then the last song on the album was Primavera by Daniel Valdez. Who brought
Yeah,
that?
Bobby brought that. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. I don't know if he liked our version of it. I saw an interview of him. He kind of didn't say much about it. I guarantee he got more exposure than anybody else who recorded it for him.
I'm sure. Okay, and then here's another album. And by the way, there's another album that I don't have, and that was Pyramid. Is there anything you'd like to say about that album?
Yeah, that's a great album.
Or a particular song on it that stands out?
I didn't like the mastering of that album.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I kind of wish I would have followed through more with, the mastering aspect of it, because I didn't like the mastering personally on what we submitted. Once it was mixed, it lost some bottom end for me, and I don't know. There's some great songs on there though, and but that one always bugged me. The mastering of that album just wasn't as good as what we gave them with the mix, as far as I'm concerned. But there were some really good songs on that though.
So those were all MCA albums, and now you guys are on Shady Book Records, and you have this record called "This Is El Chicano."
Right.
Yeah.
It was all self-produced. That was the one that, and you know what? The albums that we did were really self-produced, though we got input from Johnny Musso, but not really. I mean, for me, he was producer in name only. He was the vice president of MCA Records. So what are we going to do? Say, get out of here? Yeah. But that last album was totally us, with what was his name? Billy Watson was the engineer.
Oh yeah. He used to be in the Jaguars back in the day, and he's still.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
And he wanted to be called Flash. I don't know if you remember that.
Right.
Anyway, he's the one that recorded the very first.
That's right.
I was just talking to Fred about that. He's the one that bugged him to record that first album.
And that
And
song,
he
Viva
played on
Tira,
the last. He did the last album.
right. But he engineered Viva Tirado, the song too, the
Right.
first one they recorded at a
Yep.
house, I think. They did it at a house.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. He took some recording equipment to some house somewhere
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. After their gig, nonetheless.
Yeah.
So again, you had Andrew Baeza, John DeLuna on drums, Bobby Espinoza, organ, Nicholas Braun, you, and Joe Perrier was on this too.
Hmm.
Any songs stand out on this album for you?
I love that album. That it has bottom vocals. It's got great tunes. Yeah, I thought it was a wonderful album, and it was just I wasn't happy with the management at the time and the label we were on at that time. They weren't really big enough to do much for us, and Johnny Musso was the manager, which I did not want it to have at that time, because real quickly, Archie's contract was up at one point, and we were doing shows with the Jackson Five, and we had done a show in Denver, Colorado, and I met. I was eating at the table. I was getting a plate backstage, and then I hear you're looking for a manager, and I look up and it's Joe Jackson,
Wow.
and I said, "Wow, how'd you hear that?" He goes, "This is the music business." Oh, shit, whatever. He goes, travels fast, or whatever. I can't remember his exact word. And I said, "Yeah, we are." And he goes, he pulls out a card and gives me his card, and he goes, "When the tour's over, give me a call. Let's have a meeting." So I'm like, "All right, cool." So we get back to LA. I set up a meeting. Me, Bobby, Mickey, and Andre with Joe Jackson and his partner. Steinberg was his name, I think, or something. I can't remember now. He did all the talking.
Mhm.
And he sat us down and he said, "Hey, we love you guys. You're a great opening act for us. We'd like to propose 1 year contract. We've got 1 year worth of concerts around the world, and we want you guys to be the opening act because you just get the audience going, and I think it's a good combo. And then after a year, we can sit down and talk, see if you like what we're doing, or vice versa. We'll renegotiate, or we'll say goodbye, whatever. At least you got a year's worth of work opening for the Jackson Five.
Pretty good.
I'd say so. So I'm like grinning like this, because I'm thinking this is perfect for what we need. And so we thanked them and everything. It was a great meeting. So we went downstairs to the bar and had a drink, and we were going to talk about it. And I'm like beaming, I'm like, this is awesome, Chad. We're going to go. And they look at me and go, "Nah, we're not going to do it."
Wow.
And I said, "What?" "Nah, we're not going to do it. We're going to go with Johnny Musso. He's starting a brand new management company." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" It's the first I heard of it. He goes, "Yeah, we already talked to Johnny. We're gonna go with him instead, and he's the one that signed us to the label in the first place." And that same old mentality of not business feelings. And I could not believe it, bro. That was like the downfall for me of the band. Though I did one more album, and I told him that too. I said, "This is the downfall of El Chicano. You guys, you're not thinking progressively. You're just thinking with your emotions. And sure enough, that was our last album that we did. Great album, but
So what happened after that? Wound up
we
in
wrote
Oregon.
that one out, and then I ended up quitting end of '77, I think it was. And then I joined Roland Batista's band on ABC Records. I started recording with him and Larry Dunn from Earth, Wind, and Fire. And they were producing me as a solo artist at the same time. So, and I just did jingles, a lot of jingles at that time, which was great.
And how did you wind up in Oregon?
Well, I got a call from Bob, and he wanted to put one last band together and trying to get a new record deal.
Bobby Espinoza.
Bobby Espinosa. And at that point, I had been recording with, like I said, Roland and Larry. And I said, well, can I do a couple of my originals, you know? And he said, sure, man. I played them for him. And he goes, yeah, let's play those, you know? So we had this showcase that we did at the Hollywood, what's in the Palladium? What do they call that? It's across from Capitol Records, the Avalon, I think it's called now, or something. It used to be the Hollywood Palace.
Oh, yeah. I remember that place, yeah.
Yeah, it's across the street from Capitol Records. Yeah. It's called the Avalon now or something like that. Anyway, so we had a big show that we did there with you know, Thier and Malo and, you know, us. And we invited a bunch of record people to come, and we were playing original stuff that I had written. And Roland and Larry had played on it. So I invited them to come and play with us, to sit in. And they said, yeah, that'd be cool. So we went, and we just killed it that night. There's a video of some of it out there. And I bring out Roland, play guitar with us, and Larry Dunn walks out, plays keyboards for us. And the crowd went crazy, man, with the new stuff. That's the part I wanted to emphasize, because obviously we had all the songs that we had already recorded, but I wanted to get us a new deal. So we played the new stuff, and they loved it, man. People were wow, you know, blowing their minds. Back, Ronnie Laws was there, and he dug it so much he ran out to his car and got his horn and came in. I saw him in the wings with his horn. He was pointing at his horn, and I looked at him. I said, "Come on, man!" And he jumped out there and just started playing with us too. So it was Larry Dunn, Ronnie Laws, and Rolo Batista with El Chicano on the stage, man, and we were smoking it, man. So I was married at the time. I had a little girl, and I needed to get this deal done, you know, because I needed to support my family. And so we got some offers, but there was nothing significant, you know. It was like hairband time, I think, at that point. You know, I'm not sure what it was, but the mode was at that point. And I had told my wife, you know, we had been looking around to move if this didn't happen, because she was working for NBC and they were getting bought out. So they were offering her a package deal, which was great at the time, big chunk of money and benefits for a whole year after she would quit, you know, whatever. So we said, hey, let's go to Las Vegas, because they were having a boom in the real estate market at that time. We said, you know, we'll get in the real estate, you know, we'll do something like that. And there's music there, and we just need to get out of town if nothing happens. So we had already discussed it, and the deals weren't good enough for us. So we just said, that's it, we're done. And that's when we moved to Vegas in 90, I think it was. 90 to 97. And then from there, we moved to Oregon from 97 to 2003. And that's when my wife passed away. And I moved back to Burbank, where we were living at the time when we left, and started all over again.
But I remember that's when we connected, when you were in Oregon, and you had been singing with, was it some kind of a church group or something? And
yeah,
you mentioned that you performed in South America in front of thousands of people. What was that about?
I went to Portland Christian Center, and that's where I became a Christian. And between the time that I left LA and moved to Vegas, I had lost my whole thing about music at that point. You know, I'd gone through so much, and I had a family to take care of, and you know, I was into the real estate at that point, making great dough. It was a boom going on in Vegas at the time, but I wasn't singing. I wasn't, you know, I just didn't have it in me, man. I had lost my vibe because of that last show. It was so good and got nothing out of it. And then we moved to Portland, and I walked into this church with my family, and I discovered a whole different kind of music and a whole different way of life, man, that really helped me through a lot of stuff. especially my wife. She got sick and she had breast cancer for like 7 years. And man, without faith, I don't know how I would have gotten through it. And then she finally did pass, in 2003, too. And so I started singing with the church though in those 7 years and loving it. I mean, I couldn't believe how Christian music has progressed in arranging and in songwriting. And so I was in that choir for probably 3 years before they asked me to sing lead because I never told them my background. I just sang in the choir because they had some great vocalists. And then finally, the choir director called me into his office and sat down and he goes, "So Jerry, we're really having really fun. You're having fun with the choir." And I go, "Yeah, I love it." Da, da, da. He goes, "Well, let me ask you something." I go, "What's that?" And he goes, "How come you never told me you've toured the world with everybody and recorded so many albums and been on every TV show, blah, 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 blah." And I'm sitting there looking at him and I go, "Well, to be quite honest, I was intimidated by your lead singers. They're so good, I was just happy being in the choir. So he forced me basically to start singing leads and stuff, and I put a band together of my own. I had my own worship band and the whole thing. And he says, "We got this thing. Want to go to Brazil with us? We're going to be down there for 2 weeks, and we're doing live concerts. We're doing TV shows. We're bringing doctors. We're bringing builders." So they took 48 of us. We all got on an airplane. Went down to Brazil, went to Manaus and Belém, I think it was, for 2 weeks. And we did 12 concerts. And each concert, there was no less than 12,000 people at them just worshiping the Lord, man. And it was so awesome. It was just a mind opening experience, to do that and be able to, go down the river there, the Nile, what's that?
Amazon.
Going down the Amazon, going piranha fishing.
Carefully.
Very carefully. But it was really a wonderful experience for us as musicians and evangelizing down there and everything. So
what happened next was I had started my website in 1998, and I wound up starting to write articles about Chicano groups and interviewing people. I don't want to get into it. I've talked about how it all happened, but that's what I was doing. And I had written an article about Tierra and Los Lobos and El Chicano. And I guess you saw the article, I don't know, but you contacted me through my website and said, "Oh, I'm Jerry Salas. I was in El Chicano and I'm up here in Oregon." So we wound up hooking up, talking on the phone. And that was the time that I hooked you up with Fred Sanchez,
yeah,
the leader of El Chicano.
right.
So we got to make this clear. Fred Sanchez is the founder of El Chicano. Well, he's actually the founder of the VIPs who became El Chicano. But he was the leader of the VIPs. He was the leader of El Chicano for those first 3 albums. And he decided to move to Hawaii at that time. And so when you joined, he was already out of the group.
Right.
So you didn't really know him.
I didn't know him. I didn't meet Fred until about 2004, I guess.
Yeah.
He called me though. He did call me when I was in Oregon. I obviously seen his name on the album. So when he called, I knew who he was, but I was kind of, at that time, I was really going through it with my wife, with the breast cancer.
So that was before that I gave you his number or what? Because I
No,
remember.
you must have given me the number and he called me thereafter.
Oh, okay.
And that's how he contacted me because it was like out of the blue, all of a sudden he calls. And I'd never met him before, let alone spoken to him. And he understood. He was really cool, man. He says, "Hey, I'm up here in Oregon. I just thought about you. I got your number and would like to meet and maybe have a drink or whatever." And I says, "Well, I'd love to, but I'm really, can't right now. I'm really involved right now with my wife." And so he understood, and so he said, "Hey, I get it." But he says, "We'll meet down the line though, somewhere." He goes like that. So after my wife passed away, like I said, I moved back to Burbank and started pursuing real estate again. and then it wasn't doing all that well and getting close to the bubble in 2008, I guess. But anyway, so he called me up and he said, I'd like to have a meeting with you and talk about maybe putting the band back together. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He says, I want to meet with you and Rudy and Bobby, and we'll talk if you like. And I said, sure. So I met with him at this Italian restaurant, Bobby, Rudy, Fred, and I. And he gave us his vision, and he asked us what we thought of it and what we wanted out of it. And I said, first of all, Bobby has to have a Hammond organ every gig, no matter what. I don't want to see him playing on any little, farfiso, anything, or, because that's not his sound, And he goes, done. He says, I already thought about that. And I said, cool. And I said, and I'm not going to do nightclubs anymore. I refuse to do any more nightclubs. He goes, done. He says, we're just going to do concerts. And I said, okay, and you're going to do the business, not Bobby. I went like that. Fred said, yeah. And Rudy said the same thing. So, Fred, you do the business, right? And he says, yeah, I'm doing all the business. And he goes, Rudy, I'll ever. He goes, okay, I'm in. And that's when I said, I'm in too, So Mickey wasn't in the band yet at that point. And he was playing with Ursi doing solo, So, took a while. But when Rudy passed, I guess, is when we got Mickey in the band, I think, or something like that. I think that was the sequence. I'm not sure. And he's been in ever since with us. So.
And you've been singing lead with them ever since as well. So what year would you say that is that you reformed?
70.
No. I'm talking about in the 2000s.
Oh, 2004 or 5, I'm thinking, something like that. I think it was 2003 or 4. End of 3, though. It's kind of been a while. We were just talking about that. I think we've been together back like 20 years now. So, yeah.
You've been touring, playing tons of gigs, and
yeah, been doing everything. We just did that show. We're gonna be at the Greek Theater October 25th. And then we'll be at the Vina Robles Amphitheater in Paso Robles the next night, 26th. But next week we'll be in Phoenix. Next Thursday, I guess we're doing a concert in Phoenix. So we got a bunch of dates coming out, which is great. Yeah,
it's been really cool, huh?
Yeah.
There's some stuff here. So, I want to mention some of the times that I've sat in with you guys.
Yeah. Gibson Amphitheater. Remember that one?
That's the first one here. So I went to Garfield High School, and sometime in the early 2000s, the auditorium burned down at Garfield High School. So there was a big fundraiser benefit at the Gibson Amphitheater to raise funds to build a new auditorium. And the lineup was Los Lobos and the Midnighters and El Chicano and Thier and others. And let's see, I have it here. Little Joey La Familia. And it wasn't Midnight, it was Willie G's band. And Upground, a group called Upground. And unfortunately, nobody videotaped that. It would have been incredible. And Fred Sanchez knew I had gone to Garfield, so he invited me to come in and sit in with you guys just on background vocals. But it was a cool event, man, and probably like 6,000 people, packed. And I sang a background with Bertha Oropesa. And who was the other female singer on there? Sang with you guys a lot.
Oh, yeah. Bobby's old girlfriend, I think, right?
Yes. And so it was cool. I was happy to be up there on stage and singing, and man, that place was packed. And I just remember the finale was great. Los Lobos were playing, and Rudy Salas came out there. I came out there, and we played a La Bamba finale.
Yeah.
A medley with Good Lovin'. Place was standing, the lights went on. It was pretty awesome. So that was the first time I sat in with you guys. And then the next time we actually worked together was on that Trini Lopez special, PBS.
Right, yeah, at the Orpheum.
Yeah, that was 2008.
Yeah, with Greg Raleigh Band.
Greg Raleigh Band, Trini Lopez, Little Willie G and the Midnighters, Tierra, and El Chicano. And on that one, Tierra backed me up on my dad's Los Chucos Suaves. It was kind of a tribute to
Right. Yeah,
my
yeah.
dad. But that was a fun gig, huh?
Well, you're the one that reintroduced me to Trini
Right, right,
when I went to go see you in Palm Springs.
right. In fact,
Remember that?
I'm gonna post a photo of it right now.
You were so funny. I was watching you do your thing, and then you took a break and you disappeared, and then you came over to me and you go, "Hey, Jerry, come with me. Somebody wants to say hi." I go, "Oh, okay." So I go with you over there, and there's Trini Lopez sitting at the table with a big bottle of tequila. Jerry, he holds up, let's have some of this. I went, Trini. I hadn't seen Trini since the 70s when we did that TV show together with Jose Feliciano and Johnny Rodriguez and Liz Torres, I think it was, and Jose Feliciano. We I got a tape of that somewhere too, actually. They we put that together and called it a La Bamba party when the movie came out. And but when you introduced me to him, it was like the first time I had seen him since then. And we became buds after that, man.
Right.
Yeah.
And you came up and sang with my band. I'll put a picture up of that too.
Yeah. And Trini and I used to golf together after that. And we did some charity things together. And
Yeah, you met his manager, Burns. I can't think of his first name now. John Burns.
yeah, yeah, his publicist.
Yeah,
I
publicist.
heard his publicist actually for a while, for
And
about a
you
year.
wound up doing some award show or something with Trini. I forgot what it is. We got an award or he got an award. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I got something, and yeah, that was cool. I
Yeah.
remember Trini because we went after I met him. We started talking, and we'd always seem to be talking in the evening, right? So one day I thought, I'm gonna call Trini and see if he wants to play some golf, and I'll go to Palm Springs, whatever. So I call him up and went to machine, So I just left a message, it says, hey, blah 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 blah. So hung up. So about I don't know, about 4 o'clock, he calls me back, right? He goes, hey Jerry. I go, hey, Trini, how's it going, man? And he goes, good. He goes, I thought I told you. And I go, what's that? He goes,
He doesn't get up till 2
I don't get
o'clock.
up till 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock every day.
Every day. That's his. I went, oh, I'm sorry. I'll remember that next time. He was a funny guy. Great stories. Oh my God, the stories that guy lived through. I mean, the Buddy Holly things, the Frank Sinatra things,
Elvis.
Elvis. I mean, the
football with
stories.
Elvis.
Making the Dirty Dozen, the movie, and oh my gosh,
Played
I was just sitting there taking it all in. Yeah.
Played football with Elvis. Yeah,
And why they killed him off in the Dirty Dozen.
yeah.
That's a great story.
Sinatra told him, time to come home now.
Time to come home. You got a hit. We need to put you out on the road. So we're gonna kill you off in the movie.
We had to kill him off. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. We did a golf charity, and they had a dinner for us the night before. And so we had this dinner, and then Trini and I went to the bar. So we're sitting there, and we're having a drink. We're just chit-chatting and everything. And this guy comes in between us. He goes, and knew Trini right off. And he looked at me, and he goes, you look familiar too. And Trini goes, he's from El Chicano. And he goes, oh yeah, El Chicano. And I'm like, who is this guy? Can I buy you some drinks? And we go, well, if you want, And it was Robert Englund, the actor who played on those slasher movies.
Oh, geez.
And we're like, I'm looking at him going, you look familiar too, but I don't know why I'm scared.
Then there was another little event. It was at the Paloma Room in either East L.A. or Pico Rivera. Remember, it was a benefit for Victor Pantoja, the Guerrero from Santana.
Sure, yeah.
And you guys were playing, and I think
he was Azteca mostly. I think Victor,
yeah.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, oh yeah, but he did play with Santana. But I think that's when Ray Carrion was playing guitar with you guys.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, Mark, come on up on stage. And I just came on stage and there was nothing for me to do. So I just picked up a a drumstick and a cowbell. I started playing cowbell. That's all I could do. But it
More
was
cowbell.
more cowbell, man. And I was the cowbellist. And that's on video on YouTube too. That's on video.
Oh, that's funny.
Um, and then the next thing was, let's see. Oh yeah, remember when they screened the Trini Lopez special film in Indio near Palm Springs? They screened it, and we were all there. And you guys were in town because you were playing, or you were in town. I think you're doing the Tamale Festival. But anyway, you and I wound up performing a duo. Remember in the lobby before the show, before they screened the show? It's on YouTube. You and me,
Really?
you and me on acoustic guitars. We did my song On the Boulevard. We did my dad's Los Chucos Suaves. We did Tell Her She's Lovely. We did
Oh, I remember now. Sonny Bono's wife was there,
yes,
right? If
yes,
she was like
MC.
MC or something. I remember now. Yeah,
And we
yeah.
did a little duet thing, and it's really cool. It's all on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, that sounds good too.
And Dale just jumped up there and played congas.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Dale.
Little acoustic duo sounded really good with the percussion. It was great.
Yeah, it came off cool, man.
And then the next day, you guys played outdoor. It wasn't El Chicano. It was a thing called the Geo Latin All Stars. I don't know if you remember that. It was Rudy Salas on guitar, Sal Rodriguez of War on drums. Arcelio came up and did something, and I came up and did. I think I sang "Brown Eyed Girl" with you, harmony and lead vocal. But that's also on YouTube. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I got some cool photos from that, which I'll put on the screen now.
Wow.
But that was cool, Geo Latin All Stars, and that was in 2009, December 2009.
Dang.
And just to put dates on these things, the Paloma Room we discussed, the Victor Pantoja benefit was also November 2009. The Trini Lopez special was 2008. And the Gibson Amphitheater was 2007. So all that happened within 2 years that we.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then we
That was a great band too. That we had Walfredo Reyes Jr. on drums that
Right.
night, who's been in Chicago now for like 10 years or whatever. We had Carl Parasa from Santana's band, and we had Lenny Castro from Toto. I was at the Gibson Amphitheater.
Well, that's the next one you're talking about.
Yeah, the Gibson show
Yeah,
that you sat in with.
well, but there's two I did. The one I did in 2007 was just El Chicano. There was one in 2010.
Yeah, this was El Chicano, but they were playing with us though.
But it must be the 2010 one because I don't think that happened on the earlier one, the Garfield.
No?
No.
Do we have Carlos playing violin also?
No, not at that one.
Not at that one. So that was another date then.
Yeah. So in December 2010, it was called Chicano Soul Legends, Yera Malo Midnighters, and Joe Bataan. And maybe it was that one that had what you're talking about. Yeah.
I used to love playing there. That was a great venue.
Yeah. That one I sang background on that one too. So that was cool. And then of course, then in 2017 was the time that you guys played at the spa, the Agua Caliente Casino, the spa resort and casino in Palm Springs. And this was an amazing kind of coincidence, miracle. I wasn't going to go to the show. I wasn't going to attend the show. And I didn't want to miss my gig. And so I wasn't going to go. The day before, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go because not only could I see you guys, but Sonny Osuna was there and Renee was going to perform there. And I thought, I know all these guys, I should go. So I just got a sub for my gig, bought a ticket, and then I made plans to have breakfast at the Agua Caliente Casino in Rancho Mirage. I guess that's where some of the band was staying. Yeah, that's where the band was staying.
Yeah.
And I went to meet Renee for breakfast. And I'm standing outside the breakfast place at the casino, and Fred Sanchez walks up. I go, hey, Fred. He goes, hey, what are you doing here? I said, I'm going to have breakfast with Renee. He goes, you want to play with us tonight? I go, no rehearsal? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. And so after breakfast, I went home, got my stuff, and we just did a quick sound check. And I wound up playing like acoustic guitar and harmony vocals on about 7 songs with you guys. I don't know if you remember that
Oh yeah, that was that outdoor show.
outdoor show. Yeah,
Yeah, across the street from that casino.
right. The Spa Casino.
And they like oversold it or something. They had to bring in a bunch of chairs and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
You know
you guys,
what? That was the first concert that I did after I had a foot operation. That's right. I remember now.
well, that's what Fred told me, which really in a way didn't make sense. He goes, we could use some help on guitar because Jerry just had some surgery and Mickey just had some prostate surgery, and you guys are like
Yeah,
a hospital ward.
exactly. We were.
So so anyway, so I just went up there and I wound up I knew all the songs. I remember we did Sabor a Mi, we did Tell Her She's Lovely, Viva Tirado, What's Going On, I think. And yeah, he introduced me, really cool. And I did like
Yeah,
seven,
that
eight
was a
songs.
fun night, man. That was a fun night.
It was great because the band was powerful and you had the great drummer, and then you had 2 percussionists, one on
Yeah,
each side,
right.
timbales, congas. So you had this incredible rhythm section that's coming out from behind. And I was in the middle of this and I just love it. Just to be on stage with that kind of power
Power.
was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
and that,
It's a
that,
powerful sound, man. When I was talking to somebody about like in the '70s, because in the '70s, you you didn't never know. Well, even now, you never know about sound systems that you're going to utilize wherever you're going. So we would always have two of everything on stage to give it our own powerful stereo. I mean, two
Mhm.
Ampeg bass amps, one on each side of the stage, two Leslies, one on each side of the stage. Mickey and I played out of two super reverbs split on stage too. So our sound was like,
Felt very powerful. So that was fun, man. That's on YouTube to look it up. El Chicano with Mark, 2017 Spa Casino. It's all there. It's great.
oh, cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah. So is there anything we haven't covered?
Um, Real quickly, when I was playing at that gay bar I was telling you about when I was
Mhm.
15, they were really cool with us, man. Because what happened was the first time we played, this big girl, man, that had a pompadour, like big black pompadour. She was a big girl, leather jacket and the whole thing, right? She walks over to me, man, and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, what's gonna happen? And she looks me straight in the eye and she goes, "You guys play Jailhouse Rock." And I looked at her and I go, I didn't know what to say, and because we didn't, but I knew the song, I heard it, we've all heard it. And I go, do you sing it? She goes, and her eyes lit up. Yeah, I do. I go, what key? She goes, key of the song. I go, I think it's an E. I went like that. So I said, Jailhouse Rock and E. Then we went, da da bap bap, and she jumps on stage, grabs the microphone, and just tears it up, man. I mean, she just rocked that song, like she just like the moves and the whole thing. And when we got done, she turned around and looked at me and she said, "You guys are amazing." She goes, "My name is Rocky, and if anybody ever gives you any shit, you tell them you're Rocky's friend." And I thought, Rocky's my buddy. So I'm thinking, this is good, right? Well, Snoopy was dating this beautiful blonde while we were there. And she was really hot, man. So one day one weekend she comes back, and she comes up to me after when we're taking a break, and she goes, "You got to come to the table. I got somebody you need to meet." Oh, okay, cool. So I go to the table, and it's this really tall English guy, with English accent. How do you do? Blah, blah, blah. I've been watching you, and God, what a voice! You guys sound great. You're amazing. This and that and everything. And I kept thinking, where do I know this guy from? And then I remembered. Remember the TV show Shindig? He was the producer of the show. He was that English guy that would come in at the end of the show and say who was going to be on next week. with the host. And I can't remember the host's name, but I could see his face. And anyway, dawned on me, I think that's that guy, from anyway. So he's talking to me and he goes, well, why I'm here is because I want you to be a regular on Shindig. And I said, what? you know, he goes, I got the Righteous Brothers, I got Billy Preston, I got the Shin Dogs, blah, 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 Donna Lauren and Bobby Sherman, or I can't remember who else. There were the regulars, but you would be perfect. He goes, a young, good looking Hispanic boy that can sing like you. He goes, oh man, you got to, well, I'll take care of everything. He goes, we'll homeschool you. We'll get you a tutor. Blah blah blah. Blah. I'm sitting there staring at him still, right? And I'm thinking, this is exciting. This is amazing, And I go, well, I got to tell my brother. And he looked at me and he goes, no, we just want you. And I had never done anything without my brother up to that point. And I'm like, what do you mean? That we sing together? We're like the Mexican Everly Brothers, basically.
How old were you at this time?
15 and maybe going on 16. And I looked at him and I said, I gotta have my brother with me. He goes, well, I'm sorry. He says, we just need you. And I'll talk to your parents if you'd like. We can talk to your parents and we'll do it very legal. And like I said, we'll get you a tutor, and because I know you're still in school and everything. And I'm like, I want to do it, but I don't want to, I couldn't, I wasn't old enough to do it without my brother at that point, is basically what happened. And I always kind of think about that. It's one of those what if situations in your life, and we all have those.
Well, they had a history of having Latinos on there. They had Pat and Lolly Vegas were
Right.
regulars, and also Ruben Guevara used to sing on that show.
Uh-huh. Remember the ones that used to, what were they called? They were like an Argentina type looking band. What were they? The Gauchos. Remember the Gauchos? They were on there too.
Yeah.
I always remember them. They were good.
Yeah, yeah. I have some of those stories where I've turned down some amazing things too, and I look back and go, what was I thinking,
What was I thinking?
But you were young, I understand that
Oh,
age.
oh my God, yeah. But fast forward, when I first joined El Chicano, I think I've told you this story. We were in the middle of the album, and we were playing in Seattle, and it might have been the same trip where I got the "Tell Her She's Lovely" actually record. I don't remember now, but we were up in that area, and we were playing a Fresh Air Club in Seattle, big old nightclub, really nice. And one night, the owner comes to us and he goes, "Hey man, I'm promoting the Guess Who at the Paramount. Would you guys like to go meet him?" And we went, "Yeah, that'd be great." So he sent a car and they took us to the Paramount. They had already finished their show. They were up in the dressing room. And so we all hung out and we were drinking beer and everything else. And Burton and I hit it off really good. And he looked at me and he goes, "You want to jam?" I said, "Sure." Tells the roadie, "Put the grand piano back on stage." So we took the elevator down to the stage. Grand piano's in the middle of the stage. That was just it. So we both sit down. This roadie puts a case of beer on the piano and a bag of
Herb?
no
Oh, okay. The white stuff.
powdery. Anyway, it was the thing at the time. And we sat at that piano and played it must have been 1 a.m. when we started, maybe, yeah, about 1 a.m. And we didn't stop until 8 the next morning, man. We sang and jammed and played. And I mean, by the time it was getting close to 8 in the morning, I happened to look at the time and I went, oh crap. I go, man, I gotta go. I got a gig tonight, at the Fresh Air Club. And he goes, oh man, I forgot. Yeah, you better go, And I said, hey man, it's really great meeting you, man. He goes, oh yeah, this was awesome. So I leave, I go and I crash out, get up, play the show that night. And who walks in the door? Burton Cummings. So I hear this commotion at the door and we're playing. and it's Burton, and they were really popular at the time. They had "It's Too Late" out at that time, and I love that song. So he comes over, and the owner brings him over and puts him like right in front of the stage, and like, hey, what's happening? And we finish our show, and I go down and have a beer with him, and we're talking, and he goes, listen, man. He says, reason why I came, you guys sound great, by the way. And I said, oh, thanks, man. He goes, but I got to ask you a question. I go, what's that? And he goes, I want you to join the Guess Who. That was my face. I said, what? He goes, my guitar player is leaving, and I need to have a guitar player that can sing. And man, after last night, you got the gig, man. If you want. And I'm like, I just signed these contracts with El Chicano. I'm in the middle of doing this album with them, and I told him that, and he says, "I'll tell you what, I'll sweeten the deal." I go, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I just gotta to go to do my own album, a solo album, and I want you to sing on that with me too." And I'm like, "Oh man, what am I gonna do?" I'm like, I'm like, "Oh no." He goes, well, think on it, man, but I really, really wish you would join, and it's gonna be great, and we're gonna do this, blah, 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 blah. He's sweetening in the deal, and I'm sitting there going, oh man. So my bass player, Dick Henderson, was on that tour, and he heard the whole thing. So we're leaving to go, and he goes, you got to do this, man. You got to go. That's an offer, And I'm going, man, but I just signed this deal. I got finished half of this album, and I just said, I can't, I can't go back on my word. So I called him, and I told him, I can't, man. I got to stick with what I'm doing, and he goes, oh, no, man, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, a year goes by, and Teller becomes a hit record, right? So now we're up in Vancouver, playing in Vancouver, and I see that the Guess Who are playing someplace else. And I knew what hotel they were staying at because everybody stays at this particular hotel. So I called him up, and I said, hey, Burton, it's Jerry. And he goes, hey, are you in town? That's right, you guys are playing. I go, yeah. He goes, come on over, man. I want to talk to you. I said, okay. So I go over to his hotel room and knock on the door. He opens the door, and the first thing out of his mouth is, he goes, well, I guess you made the right decision. I can't get away from that. Effing tell her she's lovely. And we laughed, and it was hilarious. Then he invited the whole band to the show that night. We all went for free. They went backstage, and I took the whole band to meet the Guess Who again, and we hung out and partied all night.
Great story, man. So, hey, we forgot a couple of other things I just remembered. Talk about, you had that recently, in recent years, that Gino Vanelli tribute.
Yeah. I've always loved Gino's stuff. When his second album came out, I heard it, and I just went, wow, who is this guy? Really, really loved his material, his voice, and everything. And we happened to be playing the Whiskey one week, because when we would play in the 70s, we do a whole week, like 6 nights at least, and do 2 shows a night. And they empty the first show out, and the second line would come in, and we do the second show. So a lot of people would come and see us there at the Whiskey because it's, central. Gino came to see us at the Whiskey because he was just about to do Storm at Sunup album, and he heard our albums, I guess, and he wanted to hire Andre to play on it. And I don't know, something happened. It didn't work out or whatever, but I got to meet him that night. I told him, said, I love your stuff. I'm really inspired by it, blah, blah, blah. And we would always meet each other because he was on A&M Records, which was, that studio that right there in the middle of Hollywood with the old Charlie Chaplin movie studio, which turned into A&M Records. Well, I ended up doing a bunch of jingles in that studio. So I'd run into Gino there all the time. And so we kind of got to know each other a little bit. And he would send me tickets once in a while that, that he'd play. But I always loved his stuff, man. And he's a very quiet kind of guy, doesn't soft spoken. But when he sings, he's just got that great voice. And I'm kind of not digging his live show as much now as I was. Like, I went to see him probably 5 years ago, and he was amazing. Great show. Blah blah blah. Recently, I went to see him in Ojai at the Bowl there, and I think he's so he's such a genius in music. He gets bored quickly, so he's really revamped all his songs, totally jazz, and there's no. I mean, I thought his stuff was great the way it was, I mean, he had great changes, great jazz changes. Well, now it's even more so. And it's got a lot of horns now. And like, I don't know, I wasn't knocked out on it. And I thought it was just me, but Larry Antonino, the bass player that I use on my Gino songbook gigs that I was doing, he saw him live they did a rock cruise thing together. He said the same thing. He says, I wasn't really knocked out. It's just too many things going on now.
Similar to that, when Steely Dan first reformed, remember they broke up in after the Gaucho album, 1980, and then they reformed in the early 90s, and I went to see them at the Hollywood Bowl, and they did every song different. They did it more jazzy than it already was.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it because, it's great when people do different solos and, vary the melody, but when you completely revamp the song away from what it was when you loved it, I didn't like it. And they only did that for that one tour. After that, they started doing songs more like the record.
Like the record, right? Yeah. I've talked to a lot of players that have played with him, and some of them love it, some of them hated it because he's such a stickler, they say, And he says, I don't mind the gig. It's the sound checks that last forever. I did Spaghettini. I did Vitello's 2 or 3 times. I did Bogies out in the West L.A. area. They had a nice room there too. So yeah, I just wanted to, I didn't intend it to be a lifelong thing. It was just something in me that I just wanted to do that material, a couple of times.
One thing I forgot to mention, and it's one of those things I don't want to tonight go, oh, I should have mentioned it, but I left out one other time I played with you guys, and it was really special to me because you guys were playing out here at the Spotlight Casino, I believe it was.
Yeah.
In 2010. And I remember that because I had just had surgery. I had a pituitary tumor in the brain.
Oh.
And they had to go in, through my nose and cut a hole in the sinus cavity and take out the tumor. It was scary and it was serious. And I was recovering. They said, don't lift anything over 5 pounds for a week and all. And about 2 weeks after my surgery, a week and a half, you called me up and you said, hey, you want to sing Brown Eyed Girl with us at Spotlight 29 because Fred didn't make the gig that day for some reason. So, and Fred sang the co-lead with you.
Right.
So you asked me to come and do it. So I said, yeah. And I had no idea what shape my voice was in. I hadn't opened my mouth because I was being real quiet. And anyway, it was great, man. And I showed up there, you introduced me, I came out and we sang Brown Eyed Girl, and it was great. And I think you had Sal Rodriguez on drums that night too, if I'm not mistaken.
Might have, yeah. I was going in and out.
And anyway, a friend of mine recorded it on their phone and put it on YouTube. So part of that performance is on YouTube. And
cool.
But it was great, man. And I was so happy because my voice was clean and clear and it was great to be on stage. It was great to be alive,
Bingo.
But to be on stage and singing that song with you, it was just exciting. So thank you for inviting me on that. Remember that night?
Oh yeah, man. We go back, man. And I really enjoyed coming to Palm Springs and seeing you perform there and everything. So it's fun.
Now let's talk about the vets. Now you're very much supportive of veterans of the military, and you do a lot of shows for the vets. And talk about that.
Yeah, I started a Rock for Vet program. It's called Rock for Vets about 14 years ago, I guess now. And basically, we just let vets forget about all the PTSD, the problems they have. I just basically leave it at the door and just come in and play music, and whether if they want to sing, play bass, guitar, drums, keys, whatever, and we'll show them how to, put a band together. Then we go out in the community and do concerts and raise money to keep the program going. It's a 501c3, and it's you want to check it out. It's musicistheremedy.org, and then you'll see Rock for Vets there. And if it's something that touches your heart and you want to help us out, if you can donate a little anything, that would be great to keep this program going. We've probably serviced over 300 vets in that time. A lot of them are still in the program right now. And we Zoom every Monday, and I try to go down to Long Beach. That's where we started it, once a month at least, and play live. And we record. We bring in a guy, and he records rhythm sections. And then we send it out to the vets that can't make it, and they put their parts on with their phones now. Then they send it back, and we have a guy who mixes it together. And then we send that out to our supporters. Different Toyota donated a brand new van to us so we could carry the music and the veterans around. And Boeing has been very good to us, giving us grants to keep the program going. We even had Gene Simmons came in one time and saw our program, and he just loved it. And he says, "I want to play with you guys." And we're going, "Yeah, right." So he did jam with them. And then he said, "You know what? I want to do something to help you guys make money." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm going to hook us up a date together with Kiss." And I said, "Yeah, right." Then he called us back and he said, "I got a date at the Roxy. We're going to do this show. I'm going to get as much as Kiss as I can there." And so we did the show at the Roxy with the vets. Bobby Kimball came with his band. He supported. I had John Avila sit in with us. I had a band at the time called Carry On Rock. It was like a rock band. They're doing really well now. They just got signed by themselves, so that's good. But everybody but Paul Stanley showed up, and his daughter and his son both sang with our vets. And they taped it and they put us on that Family Jewels TV show he had at the time. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, we're trying to keep the program going, and there's always vets that need love and need help and to forget something. So if anybody out there has a heart to help us out, go to musicisthemedy.org and check out the site and see if it's something you can help us with.
Great work, man. Speaking of John Avila, you did a solo album, and John Avila helped with that. And there was a song on that I really loved. There was a reggae song, something about stupid, or what was it?
Oh, shut up and let me love you.
I love it. I love it. So talk about that album, talk about that song. And when was that?
Oh boy, that was 2010, I think, when I did that album with John. And in fact, that song, I had the lyrics all done and I had the music not really together. He came over here at my house the night before, and I played him the two songs I wanted to record the next day. And that was one of them. And I had it like a rocker, it was just and John's so funny. He goes like this and he's listening. And then he goes, he looks at me and he goes, "Well, maybe we'll work on that tomorrow." In other words, he didn't dig it,
Calm down and come back tomorrow.
Yeah, think about that and let's. So I go, "Oh man, he doesn't dig it. So he leaves, right? And I'm sitting there looking at these lyrics, and I love the lyrics, right? And so I start changing the groove a little bit, and I came up with a little reggae vibe, I said, "Oh yeah," and then the vocal just happened right off the top. So I go, "That's it," So the next day we go to the studio, and I go, "Come here, John. I'm gonna play you that song. I got a different vibe on it." And he goes, "Let me hear it." So I started playing it. He goes, "I love it. I love it." He goes, "Like way better." He goes, "How about this for the bass line?" And he came up with that. Do 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 boom, do 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 do, and it just happened, man. And I love it. He goes, I love it too, man. Then he started helping me with other things. So I gave him writer credit with me on that one. But
Cool song.
you know how I got the title of that?
No, tell me.
I read Bono's biography that he co-wrote with another writer. And at the end of the book, the co-writer asks Bono, he says, I've been meaning to ask you, I know you're a real strong Christian guy. And I was just wondering, what is your favorite phrase in the Bible? And Bono goes, I know what it is. He goes, what's that? And he goes, be still and know that I am God. And the guy goes, wow, that's great, man. And then Bono goes, but the pop version of that would be shut up and let me love you. And I just went, bam. I love that title. There's a whole song behind that. And I went and got a pen and paper. I wrote that probably in a half hour,
Great song. Great song. Now our good, beautiful friend, Louis Ruiz, didn't he play bass on that album too?
Every song.
Except for that one?
No, he played it on that one too.
John
gave him the bass line.
I got it.
To play.
Oh, but I mean, Louis Ruiz, I love his playing.
Oh man, Louis kills on that album. And Bob Robles was the other guitar player who played on every song also. Those are the two that played on every song.
Great guitar player. He's probably my favorite to ever come out of East L.A. Great band you had. So a good album, and that song, I still love it. It's great. In fact, I'll hear it today. I got to pull that out.
There you go.
But anything else you'd like to say? I think we covered as much as we can.
No, I just wanted to say, I brought another project to John's studio, and they hired one of the girls that was in Dawn from 20 Orlando and Dawn. I can't remember her name now.
Yeah.
But her and her cousin, I guess, they did a lot of background studio work. And somehow they were involved in another project that we were doing. And we were taking a break, and John was doing something on that song, on Shut Up. So we pulled it up, and we were making some moves on that song before we finished. And they were in another room, the girls. So when we got done and we were getting ready to get back to the session, the girls came in and go, we love that song you guys were just playing, that Shut Up song. We just worked out some really cool parts. Would you like to hear them? And I looked at John and go, yeah, sure, So he played it and they sang these backgrounds, man. And we just went, get in there to record them, And so now, and they went in and just killed it, man. Oh my gosh, these girls, they just made the song go like that, So and that is not the version that got on the record, because we had already sent the tape for whatever reason to get mastered or something. But I do have a copy of that with them on it that I never got to put on the CD. So it kind of ticked me off. But I always thought that would be a great Eric Clapton song. Think about it. When you hear it, listen to it after we're done. And he hasn't had a reggae song like that since
I Shot the Sheriff.
And the solo that Bob does on it, total Eric Clapton, man. I was like, wow. Wish I knew somebody I can get it to him somehow.
Great song. So, man, well, thanks for doing the show, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I always love talking to you, man. Been friends for a long time.
That's right, man. Well, we'll have more chapters, I'm sure.
There you go.
Yes. So, yeah, man, I'll let you know when this is up, and we'll go from there.
All right, bud. Sounds good, man.
Take care.
You have a great day, all right?
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, dude. See you.